Welcome to Stitching Up Trouble, a podcast where a quilt retreat owner and a creative quilt designer cross paths and stitch up some trouble together. I am Mary, owner of Coosa Mountain Lodge.
And I'm Heidi Pridemore of the Whimsical Workshop. Hope you enjoy. Hey.
Hi, Heidi. How are you today?
Good. How are you?
I am good. Excited to be back with you.
I know. Same here. It's kind of getting back into the swing of things. It's slowly but surely, and there's always something else right around the corner. So
there is. That's what keeps life interesting, right?
There is. Yeah. No, I mean, I was just thinking about, because I was telling you in the last podcast, all the fabric showed up to start cutting kits for the November retreat. And I thought I have, because we do design jobs for people. And have deadlines. I thought I had all these big deadlines in July, so I actually canceled a trip in July and rescheduled it into August, and then it turned out all the deadlines were actually July 1st. So now I have the whole month of July to cut all our kits for the upcoming retreat in November. So it all worked out.
Remind me, how many different colorways are we going to do for that retreat?
This one we only offered the one.
The one. Okay, cool.
Yeah, we only offered the one this time. We're going to see how it goes. So I've done, I don't know, I think we're up to like 7 or 8 retreats now, maybe with you guys. And so what the quilt behind Mary, if you're watching this on a video, was a project 2 camps ago, or was that last camp? That was 2 camps ago.
It was 2 camps ago. Yep.
I offered it in like 4 different colorways, and everybody kind of got to pick one. So this is the first time we're going to offer one colorway. See how it goes. See if people want more colorways going forward. But it is the Splish Splash fabric, so that should be really fun and exciting. So yeah, I'll be doing that in July. But that's me thinking ahead. So what projects are you working on right now?
So I am working on, I've got one for myself that I cut out a long time ago. And I'm working on getting that pieced just like for a fun project, not any class sample or anything like that. So I'm working on that. I'm working on a hand embroidery sample for the Common Thread in Dahlonega, Georgia.
Oh, nice.
Hi, Shannon at the Common Thread in Dahlonega, Georgia.
You know, we didn't mention her in the last one. I think that's the first podcast we didn't say hi to Shannon.
So. I am going to get in trouble for that one.
I'll just put it as a graphic for the video. Hi, Shannon.
That's a good idea. So we bought some embroidery kits from H&H, and so I'm working on a sample for that for her to display. And then the third thing I'm working on is trying to decide what the next scrap project I want to do for the scrap club that I've started at the Common Thread in Dahlonega, Georgia. So those are my 3.
I'm trying to think. I'm like, I have so many scrap boutiques I could send you somewhere. So I feel like I start the year fairly organized in my studio, and I just feel like the walls are kind of coming in. I've got projects and bolts of fabric everywhere, and it's just like, I just want to clean my studio. But like you, I have projects going on, and I haven't really touched any embroidery. I haven't done any handwork now for 2 weeks, I think. Which for me, I do it every night. I do it every night as a try to unwind. And you know what? Now that I'm thinking about it, I've had trouble sleeping all week, and I bet you it's because I haven't been doing it. But I've been working on quilts till late. I did we got back from Chicago, and I took a class the very next day. I don't know. Did I talk about that? Did I tell you about that class? So this was from a company. This is how silly your friend is here. I've always been interested in needlepoint. But I was interested in the painted, like in needlepoint, the canvases are all hand painted with the artwork. Right. I'm like, it'd be really nice to take our artwork and do needlepoint.
Yeah.
But like anything else, there's industry standards. There's what kind of paint do you use? How do you paint it on the fabric? And so Spellbound Stitchery had a class here locally to
Oh,
learn how to
wow.
paint a needlepoint canvas. And I signed up for it thinking it was just a class at my local needlepoint shop. Well, she came all the way across the country for it. And the women in the class were from California and Houston. And I'm like, oh, I thought I was
Hmm.
just taking a little local class.
Oh,
But
that's cool.
so I painted a little cactus on a canvas. And then if
Oh,
you follow me on
cute.
Instagram, while I was on vacation, that's what I stitched up. I
Oh,
got a little
cute.
book of stitches and I came up with a way to stitch it up. So I learned a whole new skill in between our trips,
Yay. That's
which is not,
awesome.
so that's not what our podcast was about, but I
Well,
thought I would
that's
share it.
impressive though that you were able to, because like I feel like you have all the skills already. So for you to find one that you didn't know and then learn it, that's impressive.
Well, we know
Well
a
done.
skill I don't have. I
Fishing?
don't know how to fly fish.
I'm not great at it either. I cannot teach you. I'm
Well,
just
I would
learning
do
it.
it the way you do it. I mean, if I could just like get in the water for a little while, then go take a nap. I don't care if I catch a fish. That would
Yeah.
be okay. I would do that.
Yeah.
So how's that for a segue right into what we're going to
There we
talk about
go.
today?
Yes. 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 So
Excuse me.
if you have not listened to the last podcast, we talked about our vacations, and I have taken Adam to the Seychelles and went fly fishing for a week and had a lot of time on the boat to think about podcast ideas. And so the next couple ones might be fly fishing related. So, uh,
How it pertains to us, we should
how it
say.
pertains to us,
Yeah.
correct. Um,
We didn't turn into Sportsman National
no,
podcast.
no, no, please do not look at us for any actual advice on how to fish because but
Well, I could give him advice. It wouldn't be good advice, but it would be.
true, very true. So so this episode I thought we would talk about quilting lessons from fly fishing. So there's a lot of parallels, I think, with any hobby that you need to practice and hone your skills and learn about and things like that.
Mhm,
So it's
mhm,
there's a lot of parallels, and I think that they are like across the board. So
mhm.
any kind of activity you're doing, there's definitely a learning curve and different life lessons that you can learn. So we're gonna cover a few of those today. So the biggest one that jumped out at me, or the first one that jumped out at me, is when you are doing an activity, when you're starting a hobby, when you're doing something for the first time or whatever, you need to have the right tool for the job. So that's where it can be a lot of fun just to plan and prepare for a project or
Mhm.
a fishing trip or a golf outing or whatever. Um, there are
We all
so
like to buy the new tools.
Exactly, exactly. There are so many different gadgets for fly fishing. And it all depends on what you're fishing for.
Mhm,
So if you're in a stream fishing for trout, you need one size rod with a certain weight of fishing line and a certain kind of fishing reel. And if
mhm,
you're fishing for bonefish, which is what we were doing the majority of the time, you need a little bit bigger rod and reel and heavier fishing line. And
mhm,
then some of the guys that we were fishing with were fishing for much larger fish, and you needed yet another size rod and reel and fishing line. And of course, each fish that you're fishing for will respond to a different kind of lure or fly.
mhm.
So you
Right.
need different flies, and depending on the weather and the temperature of the water and the amount of sun, they'll reply or respond to, if it's cloudy out, they'll go after one type of fly. If
Mhm,
it's sunny out, they'll go after a different one. And depending on when the hatch happens and what kind of flies and bugs are hatching at what time, it'll depend on what the fish will go after. And so there's hundreds of different combinations of rod size and reel type and line and lure type and things like that. So
they have no business giving us a hard time about having 10 sizes of scissors.
exactly. So just like fishing, when you are quilting or sewing or doing embroidery, you need to have the right tool for the right job. You wouldn't get out your tiny little thread snip in order to trim the backing off of a quilt.
Right.
You need different needles for different fabrics.
Mm-hmm.
I've, in the last year or so, started doing a little bit more hand embroidery and cross stitch and things like that. I had no idea how many different needles there are for hand sewing.
Mm-hmm.
And I've
And
started
don't
to,
even start thinking about combination of hand sewing needles to the thousands of types of threads that you can be
yes,
using.
yes,
There are whole stores that's all they are different threads.
right.
And it's insane. So yeah, they can't say anything about us.
Yeah,
They're just as
yeah.
bad with the
But, but, there's like the standard, okay, get your basic fishing rod and line and hooks and you can go catch fish.
right,
Get your
right,
basic needle and thread and scissors and you can make a beautiful quilt.
right.
But as you get more into it and more specialized, you definitely find that it's much easier, much
Mhm.
less frustrating. You get a better product if you use the right tools for the right job. So
Right.
it was just
Well, and
very,
on that note, the get the best tool you can afford at
right,
each level.
right.
Because this is
Yes.
not fly fishing, but I was teaching punch needle yesterday, and I had a student come in with a punch tool that they purchased. I believe she said they purchased on Amazon, and then we had a punch tool which that I prefer, and I said, well, let's just try your tool, and every time you punched it, it tore the fabric. Yeah,
No.
and that was because it was an inexpensive tool that wasn't properly made. And she was struggling, as in, why can't I do this? She was learning a new skill. And and I finally just gave her mine and said, here, use mine. And there's a perfect example of somebody who learned it and enjoyed it. But if she hadn't had someone to say, it's not you, it's the tool,
Right. Yep.
it could have been a non-starter for that. So like
Right.
any hobby, I'm assuming, so that next time your husband or your partner or whoever says, hey, I need a reel that's like this much money, it might be really a good idea.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So getting to the Seychelles was not an easy thing to do. It took us 2 days to get there. And, the last thing you want to do is travel all of that way and then not have the right equipment to use.
right.
So,
I'm assuming there wasn't an REI right there on the island.
no, there was not. There was, they did have a really nice fly shop, a good,
Okay.
so there were some purchases made. It's
Okay.
okay.
All right.
But, yeah, and even like the clothing that we wore needed to
Mm-hmm.
be, we were covered with the SPF protected shirts and pants,
Mm-hmm.
hats. Adam wore gloves quite a
Mm-hmm.
bit, and the little, what's the little cuff thing?
Oh, the gator thing or whatever.
Gator. Yes, he had a
Yeah.
gator that he wore, because we were on the boat in the middle of the ocean for 8 hours a day. And you
Ugh.
can apply all the sunscreen you want, and
Yeah.
you're still exposed to the sun a lot. So even that tool was important. So
Doodles is
hi
saying
Doodles.
hello.
Hi Doodles.
Usually when we're filming these, she's at daycare, but today's a Monday, so she's
Ah,
here and she's verbal.
it's part of your life. That's all right. We love
Yeah,
Doodle.
yeah.
So that's one lesson. The right tool for the right job. The next one is patience is required for both of them. Um,
Hmm.
you've got to be patient waiting for the fish to bite. You've got to be patient with yourself. Take your time. do a good job, pay attention to what you're doing, have
I was
patience
going to
with
say
the
you've got to be
process.
patient when you're sewing 300 flying geese for one quilt.
Yes. Yes. You've got to be
Not that
patient
we'd ever do that.
when you're learning curves for the first time or
And
learning a
that
new ruler.
and
So, yeah.
that's really, really important every time you learn something new to go in knowing it's not going in a museum, it's not
Right.
or into a yeah. And you are going to fail at some point of it, possibly, unless you're like amazing. So go in knowing that you're learning a skill, not creating something.
Yes. 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 So, patience. Patience is a key. So sometimes a difficult fish is just what you need to find your center and calm yourself. So
Oh, should be a good one. Let's explain
that
this one to us.
difficult and a difficult project or one that takes a lot of
Mhm,
focus.
mhm,
Um, so the first couple of days that we fished for bonefish, and Adam and I had fished for those types of fish before.
mhm,
So um, he's much better at it than I am. He does it a lot more often. But we were both able to catch fish quite a bit. And, the one day
mhm,
he caught 20 of them and was reeling them in all the time. And it was much more active and,
mhm,
you know, something going on all the time. Then he started fishing for, they call, great trevally. They call them GTs or jeets. So they're these big elusive fish. They're hard to catch. They're, once in a lifetime kind of fish.
mhm,
And it took a lot of patience and a lot of practice. And, just it was like kind of a Zen thing where he was casting and just kind of in the zone. And he, like, it was very calming and very
mhm,
relaxing and very meditative to focus on the big difficult fish
mhm,
to catch. So um, some projects are like that for me where you have to pay more attention to the details and you have to
mhm,
go slower, and it's not a jelly roll race where you're
mhm,
sewing as fast as you can. It's a slow and steady, focused, more difficult, more challenging, but more rewarding and kind of calming experience
mhm,
to create this quilt or to catch this fish. So sometimes it's good to have one of those big elusive projects to just kind of take a step
mhm.
back, slow down, and kind of get
Right.
into the zone and into the project. So
And I find like, because obviously I do a ton of quilts. So I find quilts where I'm like zone out the entire process. It is so automated. I'm not even thinking. But what
right,
you're saying, like when you have those projects, the reason it's so zen to me is because I can't think about what am I doing tomorrow? What does this client need? I only can focus on what's on the table, and that lets all that noise just kind of
right,
fall away. So yeah,
exactly,
that's
exactly,
a
exactly.
really good example.
Um,
So,
so the other thing I learned, um, or relearned, is that all skill levels can catch fish.
mhm.
All
Yep.
skill levels can quilt.
Yeah.
Um, yes, you're not catching you know, the big
Double wedding
elusive
ring.
fish that are the what?
The double wedding ring. You're not catching
Right.
that double
You're not
wedding ring.
catching the double wedding ring. You're catching a disappearing nine patch or
Mhm.
a split rail fence or
Right.
something
Right.
like that. So, but everybody can have success, and it
Right.
should not um, stop you from trying if you're not great
Mhm.
at it. So,
No.
all
And
skill
always
levels.
always pick something that's within your skill level but on the higher end.
Yeah,
I mean, I am the last person to say this, like don't jump above your skill level because I do it all the time.
yeah,
But just know if you do jump above your skill level, it's going to be more of an adventure to get there. But
hmm,
if you are picking with a project and you're just starting, pick something that you feel it just makes you feel a little bit
right,
apprehensive
yep,
versus, let's go make a king size quilt in our first project, because that's not
Yeah.
very fun. You want to
Yeah.
enjoy it.
Yeah.
So,
Exactly. Yes. So
okay.
the next lesson, sometimes the social aspect of it is much more important than the actual quilting or fishing. Um,
Hmm.
so we
Yeah.
were on this mothership, the main ship that brought us out to our skiffs every day.
Right.
And we were on the boat with four other fishermen and their
Right.
guides. And we were able to talk fishing with them and
Hmm.
learn from them. And the social aspect was so much fun.
Yeah.
And we learned so much and, you know, got to know new people and things like that. So sometimes that social aspect is as important as the finished project or the fish that you've caught. So
Right. And it's a good way also to learn what you're working on.
yes,
I mean, go back to all our retreat ones, but like you're working on something, maybe you are working on the elusive project, and there's other people that I can't tell you how many times I'm struggling with something and I'm at a retreat and someone goes, well, why don't you do it this way? And you're like, oh, light bulb moment. Why aren't I doing it that way?
yeah,
So the social aspect is also a learning opportunity
yes,
as well. So,
absolutely,
yeah.
yes, yep,
Especially because you traveled so far. I mean,
yep,
that's part of travel to me, is getting to know the people and the environment. And
yeah, absolutely,
so, yeah.
absolutely, yeah. And also going along with that is having that common interest. So the fishing or the quilting or
Hmm.
whatever the hobby is, um, it can help form friendships from a wide variety of people.
Hmm.
So varied backgrounds, varied ages
Hmm.
can come together and have that common interest.
Hmm.
And then from that common interest can branch off into fuller friendships from that.
Right.
So
Right.
that, is also another lesson is you can gain a lot of friendships from people that you
Right.
wouldn't normally have encountered through
Right.
this hobby. So
Right.
that's really a
Well,
wonderful, wonderful thing to have.
that's a bonus for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And it makes us more well-rounded people.
Yes, it
If I
does.
just stayed in my studio and never went out, I'd be a very, very flat person.
Yes.
Maybe I'd be thin, but no.
Thin is
I'm
not
sorry.
in anymore. I've declared it.
Oh,
Thin is not
well, I
in.
mean, I
Well,
always considered myself
no.
Rubenesque. I mean, that artist knew what he was doing.
Oh, there you go. It's not out either. If you're thin, you're fine. We're not
We're just jealous.
we're not body shaming anybody. Um, so yeah. Um, so the biggest lesson I think Adam learned while we were there, um, two of them. So practice leads to improvement. So
Yes.
we were there we fished 6 days,
Hmm.
and our casting got so much better by day 5 and 6 than it
Okay.
was in day one.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so you
Yeah.
definitely, like, were we perfect? Were either of us perfect by the end of the trip? No, but we had improved a great deal, and just
Right.
practicing leads to improvement. You're not going to be perfect,
Hmm.
but you will get better as you practice.
Right.
Um, and that's with quilting as well. Like,
Hmm.
the first time you sew a seam, is it going to be a perfect 1/4 inch? Probably not. Are
Right.
you going to, cut everything out perfectly? No, but the more you practice, the
Hmm.
better you're going to get at all of these things. So,
Oh, yeah. Practice is definitely the key. I mean, that's why I think that's why quilting is kind of a really nice craft, in the sense, I mean, the part that I don't like is actually the part that we're talking about, is the repetitiveness, because I get bored. But
right.
like you said, if you sew your first curve on your quilt behind you,
Hmm.
you're nervous, you're not sure, is it going to come out right? And then by the last curve, you're like, oh yeah, I got this. And
Yeah.
you can put that in your, achievements unlocked kind of thing. And then you
Yeah.
can feel more confident about tackling another new thing. So you
Yes.
also get that element from it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
my question to you about the casting, though, just in general,
Hmm.
obviously you were doing it for 6 days and you were repetitive. and you got much better at the end. So like say a year goes by and you go back, was that something that like when you start you'll be casting as well as you were at the end of the trip, or is it something you have to learn each time, like how to cast again in that area and with the water? Or so is it a
So
skill that you constantly have to repeat?
so both. Um, so like say I go back next year, I'm not going to be at 0 again where I started. But if
Right.
I like finish the trip at a 10,
Right.
I'll probably be a 4 for a little
Okay.
while until I come back up to speed.
Right.
So it'll take me a little bit to get back in the swing of it, and then but it won't take me as long as it did this time.
Okay. And the reason
So,
I asked is because that's what it is to be a quilter, isn't it? Like to
mhm.
actually do the quilting. I mean, we
Yeah,
all like achieve a level, we understand it, but then when you start, you're a little rough, and
right.
and then okay, you quilt for a whole set. We'll use the same example for 6 days straight. By the end of it, you're really good, and then
Yep,
a year goes by and you need to quilt again. Don't expect to be at that top level.
right,
You're going to be in the middle, and you got to warm up and get back
right,
into it.
right.
So yeah, it's the same kind of a skill
Yeah,
to not always expect to be at the same level you were the
right,
last time.
right,
So
right. Yeah,
so,
you've got
but
to
wow,
relearn a little bit each time. So,
yeah,
so
yeah.
I'll definitely, if I do curves again, I'll have to review my notes from the class, or I'll call the
Glue
teacher and
stick,
say,
glue stick,
glue
baby. That's
stick,
all you need is a
glue
glue
stick,
stick.
glue stick.
That's easy
So
enough.
it is, it is, it is.
Yeah,
It really was easy, and you can see that they all turned
they
out
look
really
beautiful.
nice. They're laying
Yeah.
flat and everything, even before I quilt it. So,
Well, and what we just said, actually, I learned a lesson yesterday teaching punch needle
mhm,
because another lady, a person in the store came in to want to see the class. How were we doing it? And I'm like, oh, it's easy. You'll have fun doing it. And the girl who was sitting there learning looked at me and she goes, It's not easy." And I was kind of like, oh, wait. And she's right. For her, it's not easy because she's
right,
learning. For
correct,
me, I'm like, this is easy because once you learn it, it is actually an easier
right.
skill to learn than other skills. So that's another thing for me to say, oh, curves are easy. It's like, no,
You have to
you have to
learn.
know the ins to make it
Yeah,
easy, and you have to
yeah,
learn it, like you
yeah,
said. So
yeah, yeah. That was one of the things that I learned early on when I was in college. I worked in the tutoring lab and I tutored
mhm.
chemistry and algebra.
she
Um,
she's a smart one, girls and
I
boys.
was. That's another one of those things that I'd have to go back and
Hmm.
relearn to get back up to speed. But somebody would come in with an algebra problem and I'd be like, "Oh, it's easy to do." And it's like, "No, it's easy for me, not
Hmm.
necessarily for you until you learn
Yeah,
it." So,
yeah,
um,
yeah.
rephrasing it as you'll be able to learn how to do this or
All right,
something like that is much
right.
better. Because if it's not easy for them, then they kind of get
Well, that's
discouraged.
the fine line I walk between being a teacher and a salesperson. For
Right.
salespeople, everything's easy.
Yep. Yep.
And then it's for teachers, like, no, I have to understand it's easy because I've already learned it and now I'm teaching it.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that
Yeah.
was I don't know where that was just from us talking. I was like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, no, I learn. I'm always learning. I'm always learning.
Absolutely.
But
Absolutely. So the biggest lesson, and it took Adam all week to learn this, was you don't have to be good at something to enjoy doing it. And it's
oh yeah, that's a
okay
very good one.
not to be good at everything.
Hmm.
So I had a great time fly fishing. I am awful at it. I don't have the stamina to do it. It's very different than the kind of fishing I did growing up, which is the spin casting, where you've got,
Hmm.
the reel and you just reel it in, and
Hmm.
it's much different.
Hmm.
So it's hard to break those habits for me, fly
Right,
fishing.
right.
So, but I enjoy it. So you don't have to be an award-winning quilter in order to enjoy quilting. You don't have to be making these wonderful masterpieces in order to enjoy it. you don't have to be catching these giant fish in order to enjoy fishing.
Fishing, yeah.
So if you have something that you enjoy, even if you're not great at it,
Yeah.
go do it. It's for the
Yeah.
enjoyment. This is
Yeah.
supposed to be fun. This is supposed to be something that makes you smile. This is supposed to be something that makes you feel good about yourself.
Hmm.
You don't have to be perfect at it or super talented in order to enjoy doing it. So go do it. And
Right. And for quilting, there's elements. So find the one you enjoy. Like I have a friend, she just loves to learn techniques.
mhm,
She very rarely makes a quilt. She just likes to learn the different techniques. And she's learned very early. It's like I don't have to make something from this skill. I just want to learn the skill. And then
mhm,
there's people who like to piece but hate quilting, people who like to quilt, but hate piecing, people who
mhm.
hate cutting but they love sewing on their binding by hand, not my thing. So you can also, for quilters especially, we have so many different layers to the craft. You can find the
Yes.
layer that you enjoy and expand
Yes.
upon it.
Yep.
And then you can do like me. And, if you don't, I like quilting. I'm not very good at it.
Mhm.
I'm not good at quilting a quilt. I quilt by check, and I'm very happy
Yeah.
with that. And so
And
you
I
can
enjoy
find
people that quilt by check because it checks to me to so
exactly, exactly. And
yeah.
that's from the AccuQuilt ladies. I had to do an interview with AccuQuilt because I was working with them, and
Mhm.
um, I was a little embarrassed. They're like, "Well, how do you plan your quilting on your quilt?" And they had like this whole series of questions, and I said, "Well, we're gonna have to nix that section because I don't quilt my quilts, and I very rarely give my quilters ideas. I trust my quilters to look at
Right.
it and know what it needs." And she goes, "Oh, that's okay, sweetie. You just quilt by check." And I was like, "Oh, I'll steal
Yep.
that and use that the rest of my career." So, oh,
Yes.
doodles. Sorry, she's very verbal today.
That's quite.
So that was a big lesson. So now you noticed these lessons and
Mhm.
enough to even create this. Did Adam actually learn these things? Or did you just observe it?
No, he did. He did learn it. And we talked about um like the other day we kind of did a recap of the trip
Mhm.
and what we got out of it and what was important and things like that and yeah, he definitely learned like yeah, I'm not the greatest at it, but I really enjoyed it. We had a great trip. Um, learned some things, met some really cool people, got to see some really cool stuff.
Mhm.
So it wasn't all about the skill of fishing or the
Mhm.
activity of it, but that was a big part of it. And
Mhm.
he learned enough new techniques that
Mhm.
he's excited about practicing those and doing some more
Mhm.
fishing.
Right.
Um, so, and he was good at a certain type of fishing before we went,
Mhm.
but this was way out of his skill
Right.
level
Right.
because we just didn't do that type of fishing before we left.
Right.
So yeah, he did learn like, yeah, I'm good at this thing, and it doesn't automatically translate into this other skill.
Correct.
I'm going to
Right.
have to practice, and it's okay that I'm not good at it. I
Yeah.
will get good at it. So yeah, he
Yeah.
did. He did. So
Yeah.
it was,
And
I
that's the
could
biggest
see the,
part of the
yeah,
journey. I
yeah,
mean, if you went out there and he was a master fly fisherman, I mean, he'd be ecstatic at the time, but then he'd be like, "Do I really need to do this again? I'm already good at it." You know what I mean?
right. Yeah,
So the learning process is a really big part of the journey and
yeah,
part of what you can enjoy about it,
yeah,
So,
exactly. Yeah.
well, we did not go fly fishing, but I did take Matthew to a needlepoint store, and I didn't buy anything, but he actually got one, and he's teaching
Ooh,
himself needlepoint. So,
oh,
you
that's
know,
cool.
yeah, I was kind of like, all right.
Ooh,
The lady helped him pick his threads. I was totally out of the whole thing, and so we
cool.
can each learn what our partner is doing and
Yeah,
expand on it.
absolutely.
And so, but,
Absolutely.
well, I'm glad you're back to the States. We missed you.
Me
I know
too.
my sister missed you. I missed you. We're like,
Yeah,
oh, when's
yeah.
Mary get back?
I got to have
So,
dinner with her and Violet last night.
oh, nice.
And Dana was with us, and
Oh,
our
hi, hi,
mutual
Dana,
friend
if you're
Lisa.
listening.
Our mutual friend Lisa was with us as well. So
Oh, yeah,
we
yeah.
went and tried a new Chinese place, and it was
Ooh.
really good.
Where was it? Is it near them or near you?
Closer to us, it was
Okay.
on Buford Highway.
Okay.
So there's a lot of really good Asian food in
Right
that
there.
couple of mile stretch there. So we tried a new restaurant that we hadn't tried before. So
Oh, nice.
always love
Well,
doing that.
my next trip, I will get to see them. They're both coming. We're all going back to my hometown of Rochester and seeing my other sister, and so I'm sure I'll have my fair share of Asian and Mexican food while
Yeah.
Violet's there because those are her two favorites.
Yep.
But yeah, so that'll be nice. But you get to see them way more than I do. I'm jealous.
Do.
So
Yeah. Well,
yeah,
move to Atlanta. Move to
uh,
Dahlonega because
yeah.
I have some land. I'll build you a house on it, and you
I'm
can
bringing Matthew in November. He's gotta take a look at all this.
yeah.
He's been to Atlanta a few times. This is my
Hmm.
husband.
Hmm.
But for the longest time, it was just easier with him working, and now we have a big I would just go see my
Yeah.
sister. And
Yeah.
so he's gone more probably in the last 2 years than he has in the last 20 years.
Yeah.
And yeah, we're all coming in November for, gosh, I think 10 days. So
I'm excited.
um, part of it's for the retreat. So if you guys
Yep.
come to that retreat, you'll get to meet Matthew as well as probably
Mhm.
Adam because he always pops into the
Yep.
retreats.
Yep.
And then he'll get a chance to kind of see what the area's like, and who knows? We'll see where it goes. But all right, on that note, I guess we should wrap up lessons you've
Yep.
learned from fly fishing. I
Yes.
hope you guys have enjoyed that. I have. I found it very interesting.
Thank
Um,
you.
you know, it is you were in an environment where ideas percolate and it's
Yes.
quiet and it's calm, and
Yes.
I always do best in
Absolutely.
those areas. So,
Mhm.
but we will be tuning in next time. This is our 13th episode. Can you
Nice.
believe it? I actually got an email today from another spammy thing, but it's like, do you know that YouTube have put out more podcasts in the first part of your development than most podcasters? I'm like, oh, that's because we know how to talk. We're good.
Oh yeah, we can definitely talk. Well, that's cool.
Yeah, yeah. So as
Yeah.
always, make sure you follow us on Instagram. Mary set that up for us, and that's Stitching Up Trouble. And listen to the podcast. Check us out on YouTube, and leave us a comment. I think that's
Yes.
all the. I feel like
Yep.
I always have a little saying here. Leave us a comment. So,
Like, follow, share, comment, and
mhm.
uh, join us next
Well,
time.
yeah, we'll see you in the next one. Thanks for
All right.
joining us.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.